Hello, there is no shortage of content debating whether you should be using active managers or be investing in index type products. But today we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, if you decide to go active, is there a way for you to measure, if you're actually paying for a manager who is truly active? And one way to measure that is with a measure called active share. Now, this concept was introduced by Kremers and Pedigisto. My apologies for the pronunciation there. In 2009, it was an academic paper. It garnered a lot of attention because they were contending that this measure actually helped to predict future return. Now, this measure is pretty simple. You're looking at the weight of the product, of each asset in the product versus the weight of that same asset in an index. You notice the absolute value bars there. So it doesn't matter if you're overweight or underweight an asset, it's treated the same. And consequently, you're going to divide by 2, and that's going to give you kind of an active share. And that really is like the percent of your portfolio that directly matches an index, kind of to put it in layman's terms. So we can do a few examples here. Let's say, we have 8 stocks in our universe, stocks A through H. We can see benchmark weights here, 35, 25, 10, and 30 for stocks A, B, C, and D. If we match those weights exactly, we're an index, and we can see that our active share, the differences are 0, the absolute values of 0 are 0, the total, the sum, which was in that equation, adds to 0. We divide 0 by 2, we get 0. So we have an active share of 0, which means we perfectly match our benchmark. We go to a different manager who's going to vary a little bit from that manager. And here in this case, we can see that the active share is 55. So it's 55% of the portfolio, exactly matches the benchmark. We can get a little more extreme here. Here's a manager who is, going outside of the benchmark more. It holds a position in all of the names that are outside of the benchmark, gives it an active share of 80. This manager is more active. And we can go to an extreme where the manager is just, look, I'm not going to hold a single name in the benchmark. I'm going to hold only names outside of the benchmark, and I'll get an active share of 100. Now, I would argue that in this case, the benchmark is misspecified, right? So it's not that this manager is particularly active. It's just that they're benchmarked to the wrong benchmark. So keep that in mind. We might talk about that in a future video. Now, there is a website out there, activeshare.info, and you could go in there and put in the ticker symbol of any of your mutual funds, and it will tell you what the active share of that product is versus the stated benchmark in the perspective, and versus a benchmark that has the highest active share against, right? So just for your information, you should go check that out. Now, also, I want to point out that the trend has been that the number of mutual funds that have high active shares is slowly but surely declining over time, right? I think there has been a trend in the industry to really worry about how you're performing versus a benchmark versus how you're performing in absolute terms. So managers, because of this pressure they're just, unfortunately getting closer and closer to benchmarks. We don't see as many products with really high active shares as we have in the past. Now, there are other measures here in terms of how we can determine how active our managers are. One is tracking error. So on a subsequent video, we're going to talk about tracking error. And then even after that, we're going to talk about how we can use these measures together to get a better sense of what types of managers we have invested our money with. Thanks so much for listening.